Hello everybody, it's John here from the esports department, and I'm not sure whether word has really leaked out on this yet, but that is possibly the last time you'll hear me say that phrase. We are going to be shutting down a lot of the content for the esports department coming in a few weeks here when Worlds is over. I believe there's still going to be a little bit on there, but it's not going to be nearly the booming metropolis of content that it has been. Truthfully, I kind of have come out and talked about this whenever people have asked about it. I'm pretty straightforward about it. Truthfully, I switched over to this model thinking that there was some things to do with it, and it just has not worked out as a business model. We only received one donation total in the last 2.5 months. In that time period, I have just been paying out of pocket to make sure everybody was making some money, and in the end, that's not a long-term viable strategy for the business. So, given that a lot of the members on the team have other things going on and cool things that they can be doing, I just decided to sort of release everybody and let them go do their thing elsewhere if they wanted to do it. If they want to put stuff up on the esports department, everybody's still a friend of the esports department, and I'm sure if I want to put up some power rankings or some preseason tiers or something, we can go ahead and do that. But especially with that happening and Gelati deciding to prioritize his health, which I 100% agree with, and stepping away from doing content for the time being, this is the last few weeks here of the esports department, as you've known it anyway. The Discord obviously will stay open. We got an insane community in the Discord. I love all the guys in there, and there's no reason to do anything with the Discord, but as far as this kind of content, this is probably the last piece that I'll be doing for some time. So, enjoy it, guys. I mean, the last time you get to hear me say this is John from the esports department for quite a while, so, soak all that in. Let's move on to the semifinals of Worlds. T1 plus 205. They're 8-1 so far in the tournament, up against Damwon Kia, who is minus 275. They are 9-0 on the tournament so far. Obviously, both these teams' stats are going to be hyperinflated from the fact that they haven't played very many games and they've won almost all of them. 1924 to 1949, slight advantage for Damwon. GDM is 369 to 300, so advantage for T1 there. Both with a 77% first blood, but Damwon with a 12% edge in first turret. Both have a 72% on dragons, but T1 with a herald advantage by 16%. And the gold differential of 15 has T1 about 900 ahead. So, can T1 win the series? I mean, Damwon's minus 275, clearly they're the favorite. Can T1 win the series? Sure, they can. My biggest worry with T1 has been this year their drafting more so than their actual playing. If their drafts are good in this series, I think T1 can definitely win this series. I think they have a better bot lane, for sure. The mid lane's going to go to Damwon. The jungle's going to go to Damwon. The top lane I actually think is pretty close. As great as Khan has been playing this tournament, I think Kana, it's hard when Khan is playing Kana, but I think Kana is an exceptional top laner and can definitely hold his own against Khan as well, though you might give a slight edge to Khan. So it's kind of top half the map versus bottom part of the map. But if T1 plays this matchup correctly, gets some help down there and doesn't draft like Looney Tunes, they could definitely win the series. Absolutely. Damwon obviously a clear favorite though, and if you're talking cash games or something, I think Damwon's going to be a place to go. T1's probably the higher owned of the underdogs, I would guess. I think enough people are viewing T1 as one of the best teams at the tournament here. I don't think a lot of credit is being given to the other underdog. So probably even at plus 205, I'm guessing T1 might be the higher owned of the two underdogs. The other matchup, EDG minus 225. They're 7-4 so far at Worlds, up against GenG, who's plus 170. They are 8-3 so far at Worlds. Now, when we look at these stats, 1846 to 1848, plus 124 to plus 127, advantages in first blood and first turret for GenG, dragon percentage by 7%. The heralds do go to EDG by 9%, but at 15 minutes, GenG is further ahead in general. GenG did get one of the easier first-round matchups. EDG's matchup against RNG is a significantly tougher matchup than GenG, who just kind of got to roll over. But I think GenG is extremely live to win here as well. If you're playing a bigger field GPP on this slate, I mean, you can see statistically GenG is actually looking pretty good. The Chinese teams, just none of the Chinese teams have really looked good at Worlds comparatively. EDG has looked the best of the Chinese teams, but really it's been LCK. And you know, if you've listened to any of my content, especially with Gelati and the guys over the last couple of years, I am an LCK bear, to say the least. I do not, you know, believe in the future of the LCK versus the LPL. But this year's just been all LCK. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to see GenG come out here and get a win. You know, EDG's a favorite for a reason. I think EDG versus Damwon is certainly the most likely final from here, but GenG and T1 wouldn't blow me away. And I think if you're playing a big enough field, GPP, GenG, T1 makes a lot of sense. GenG, Damwon makes sense too, I think, for like a more medium-sized field. For GenG, as this matchup seems like it's likely to be a little bloodier, 17.5 and 22.6 for GenG so far this tournament. EDG sitting on what we would kind of expect from them after the LPL season at 17.4 and 16.7. Over in the other matchup, we have 14.1 kill per win for T1 with only a 16 DPL. Now, Damwon does have a super high kill per win, but that's kind of indicative of Damwon when they're playing against significantly worse teams. It could really tighten up against T1 here. So it feels like EDG GenG is the matchup you want to be more heavily involved with. That makes the most sense to me. As far as cash game lineups, it's got to be EDG and Damwon. What are we able to... Oh, I got to fix this thing. What are we able to fit in here from these boys? We can get a jungle captain. It actually prefers Flandre captain, which kind of makes sense with these teams, actually. I don't think I could risk that, though. Like here, what lineup was it giving me with the GG captain? GG captain with Canyon and Showmaker. I mean, that's pretty tough not to do. But that's a 927. Goes 929 with Flandre and Khan. It just really believes in Flandre and Khan supremacy. Which, I mean, with this is two teams where it's not out of the question. This might be a lineup that you play in like a 4-man. Because it's probably, you can get the same teams that everybody else is playing, but get 4x on your money if you're right, because you're going to be the only person with this lineup. So this makes sense, I think, for something like 4-mans. I think for heads-ups, I'm just going to go with this one and just play a 2v2 and hope that my opponent is on a different 2v2. This makes the most sense, I think, for heads-ups. But 4-mans, I kind of like that Flandre setup. Let's see if anything weird shows up with the other possible builds here before we call it a day. EDG and T1, it goes with an EDG with a Viper Captain 3-3. Obviously, I'm never a big fan of the 3-3. Would kind of prefer to maybe get Flandre in there or Mako. Looks like it would want to go with Mako if you were going to turn it into a 4. If you wanted to play a good 3-3 in a big field GPP, then that's the one I'd go with, the one that it initially built. But yeah, just a standard 80 carry captain there. If we went Damwon and GenG, anything weird going on with them? Ruler captain for GenG, another thing you kind of would have expected with Ghost and Showmaker. That makes tons of sense. I think I'm getting spam messaged here. Sorry. And lastly, if you happen to go double dogs, if you go T1 GenG, Ruler captain with 4 GenG and Faker, yeah, it just makes too much sense. The 80 carries on some of these teams are definitely the focal points of the team, so you're not getting anything too weird. We don't really have any... Looking at the teams that made it here, Damwon is really the only team here that's not like very 80 carry focused at all. It kind of seems like teams with strong 80 carry fundamentals, EDG, GenG definitely plays towards 80 carry, T1's definitely capable of playing towards 80 carry, and Damwon, even though they don't necessarily play towards 80 carry, Ghost does end up the highest scorer on a lot of their slates just from being around in these fights. So that's definitely a possibility as well. Yeah, it's interesting to note that kind of teams with really strong 80 carry fundamentals seem to have made it the furthest in the tournament. Very interesting. But that's what we're going with tonight, guys. If you're playing the cash games, I would go with one of those two lineups, either playing the 4-mans and going with the Flandre captain, or playing the heads-ups and going with this GG captain here. and that's probably what we're doing today. So I appreciate you guys. To anyone who's watched my content in the last like 2 years, thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate you all. I'll be moving on to spending most of my time on Decentrozines, which if that's something that you guys have heard of, thank you for hearing about it. And if you haven't heard of it, feel free to message me about it. I'm really trying to do some good in the world. It's time to sit down and try to make the world a better place, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'd love anybody that wanted to be involved with me in that endeavor. So thank you guys. I'll talk to you later. And once again, this was John from the esports department.